Hello, and welcome back to your infinite heights, where the sky is not the limit, where we delve into the realm of cars and the powerful trends shaping them. Today, we explore a simmering standoff between the United States and the European Union, triggered by Washington's plan for a 25% tariff on EU imports. This clash could skyrocket vehicle costs and disrupt production lines. Buckle up for our 5 key chapters, spotlighting how this transatlantic power play could rewrite the automotive rulebook. Number 5. Europe's decisive response. After President Donald Trump proposed a sweeping 25% tariff on European Union goods, EU leaders responded decisively, determined to protect car makers like Volkswagen, BMW, and Stellantis. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen vowed that unilateral US measures would meet immediate resistance. The EU reinstated tariffs on emblematic American products such as motorcycles, whiskey, and denim. At stake are thousands of jobs in trade. This strategic retaliation underscores Europe's awareness that its automotive sector relies heavily on North American markets for revenue and job stability. Some member states have hinted at taxing American tech giants more aggressively, signaling a broader willingness to defend Europe's economic interests. Supporting this stance is the Anti-Coercion Instrument, ACCI, a legislative mechanism enabling Brussels to impose new trade barriers or investment restrictions when it perceives coercive tactics from foreign governments. Parallel conversations at the World Trade Organization and WTO further shape these disputes. A favorable ruling for the EU could amplify pressure on Washington to revise or roll back tariffs. Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron's diplomatic overtures have yet to yield a conclusive settlement. Europe's readiness to defend its automotive sector stands as a stark reminder that this standoff extends beyond commerce, testing long-standing transatlantic alliances. Number 4. Supply chain turmoil. Automotive production relies on a choreographed global supply web. But Washington's 25% levy on EU imports threatens to unravel these connections. Vehicles depend on myriad European-built components. Engines, braking systems shipped to American factories. Any break in that chain can stall production, spike costs, and derail delivery schedules. Suppliers like Valeo and Bosch are already grappling with electric vehicle investments, now face steep tariffs that could squeeze profit margins and prompt decisions on relocating facilities. According to a European Association of Automotive Suppliers survey, nearly 60% of EU parts producers might scale back US shipments if the dispute continues. On the American side, many assembly plants rely on just-in-time deliveries from Europe. Delays or shortages could force temporary shutdowns, risking layoffs and fueling economic uncertainty. Meanwhile, dealerships struggle to plan inventory, secure financing packages, and manage unpredictable pricing shifts. Consumers grappling with inflation may encounter higher sticker prices, whether they're buying import or domestic models, as tariffs can significantly ripple through the entire production process. In response, some automakers are exploring alternative sourcing or shifting production to non-EU regions. Yet such fixes often complicate logistics and raise questions about quality control. Ultimately, the supply chain upheaval greatly threatens both sides of the Atlantic. Before we delve deeper, do us a favor and smash that like and subscribe button. This helps us reach more auto enthusiasts just like you. Now let's shift gears and steer towards our next point. Number 3. Global economic shockwaves. Far beyond factory floors, the consequences of a US-EU tariff clash could ripple through entire economies. The automotive industry forms a vital pillar of gross domestic product on both sides of the Atlantic, generating countless jobs and billions in revenue. Elevated trade barriers don't just affect car makers, steel producers, parts suppliers, and even tech firms. Creating in-car software may also feel the sting. Economic forecasters warn that steep tariffs can curb growth. Europe, still striving for financial stability, risks a GDP dip of up to 0.4% if hostilities persist. The United States could likewise experience a contraction, with experts pointing to reductions in consumer spending and manufacturing output. Though these figures might seem modest, they translate into real-world cutbacks, fewer jobs, lowered income, and shrinking consumer confidence. Higher vehicle and parts prices inevitably squeeze household budgets. Some buyers might shelve new car plans altogether, hurting sales and slowing the sector's bounce back from recent supply chain hiccups. Automakers watching profit margins shrink may also cut research funding for advanced driver aids and electric vehicles, potentially stalling innovation. On Wall Street, stock indexes and automotive shares have already shown signs of volatility, reflecting broader anxieties about inflation, interest rates, and uncertain international relations. Number 2. Diplomatic and legal tensions mount. Amid escalating tariffs, the international stage is witnessing a crucial legal and diplomatic tussle. The European Union asserts that the United States' 25% levy on EU imports could breach World Trade Organization WTO guidelines, setting the scene for a possible legal face-off. Although the WTO process can be lengthy, a ruling against Washington would intensify calls for a policy reversal. If the judgment favors the US, however, it could validate American claims of unjust EU trade rules and strengthen its bargaining hand diplomatically. Long-running alliances are on shaky ground. America and Europe have historically cooperated on security, environment, and trade. Yet abrupt tariffs threaten to unravel these ties. Some in Brussels see an opportunity to bolster relations with Asia, including China, to offset US pressure. Though this move carries its own geopolitical complexities. Europe remains divided internally. France advocates a unified, firm response, while others fear tit-for-tat measures could deepen economic pain. Germany, heavily dependent on auto exports, walks a fine line between defending its industry and avoiding a full-blown conflict. Meanwhile, lobbying from US automakers and public discontent over rising prices also shape Washington's stance. Ultimately, whether through legal verdicts or diplomatic talks, the outcome will leave a permanent mark on global trade. Number 1. The path forward. Negotiation or full escalation. As the tariff showdown evolves, the auto sector's fate hangs in the balance. There's still room for diplomacy. Officials from both sides have floated sector-specific deals to lower or eliminate trade barriers for particular vehicle categories. These compromises could mitigate rising costs, but would require considerable coordination among regulators, labor groups, and industry players, not to mention alignment across various EU member states and US agencies. An alternative scenario is uncontrolled escalation. Should negotiations collapse, both parties might broaden or intensify tariffs. Europe's anti-coercion instrument, HCI, empowers Brussels to impose further trade restrictions, which could spark reciprocal action from Washington. In such a tit-for-tat cycle, supply chains might buckle, car prices could soar, and widespread factory slowdowns would threaten jobs on both continents. Onlookers fear a global ripple effect, with emerging markets potentially adopting similar protectionist tactics. Heightened trade barriers could also hamper the industry's pursuit of electric vehicles and cutting-edge tech, forcing companies to reallocate funds away from innovation. Still, past disputes suggest that when job losses grow too dire and consumer prices spike, governments often return to the bargaining table. The coming months will reveal whether cooler heads prevail or a deeper rift looms. Final verdict: where do we stand? With so much on the line, with leaders managed to strike a balanced deal that safeguards jobs and advances the industry? Or are we barreling toward an extended conflict that leaves automakers and consumers in the lurch? We'd love to hear your take. Do you foresee a diplomatic breakthrough or a protracted standoff? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments and before you head out. Don't forget to subscribe to the channels so you never miss our latest vehicle updates and upcoming videos. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Infinite Height.